Shalom to the elect of Israel, to the hopeful elect of Israel, you Hebrew Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, and Haitians. Gotta give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. The Most High, the Heavenly Father, His Hebrew name is Yahweh, not Yahweh, not Jehovah, not God, not Elohim, not Most High, not Lord, not Yah, not Jah, not Ahaya, not Allah. It's Yahweh. And His only begotten Son name in the Hebrew is Yahweh Shai. Not Yahshua, not Yeshua, not Jesus Christos, not Jesus Christ, not Serapis Christos, not Yeshaya, not Yehoshua. It's Yahweh Shai. So we gotta give all praises honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elder bishops and elders of great millstone who rule well, who teach well, who are the apostles and elders of all of Israel, ready concepted or not. In the sincere salutation to all the ark and pushing this truth and believing this truth toward the four ends of the earth, the entire world waking up the hopeful elect. And shalom to the Akwath who are listening and learning. If your sisters who are listening and learning. I'm Isaiah from Jim Solano Camp coming at you in a lesson. And true facts, faith, and edification, another day of edification, Lord, witness be edifying. So I titled this lesson, The Lord is Making Strategic Moves. Yahweh Shema Shah is making strategic moves. So let me get this first. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing non-profit educational or personal use tips to balance in favor of fair use. So this is I'm gonna play some of this from this channel Redacted. You know what, Salakia? I knew I was gonna do this. I should already had it queued, ready to go. So Salakia, hold on.
Put this segment.
Bear with me for a second. Salakia, bear with me for a second. These devils, man. All right, so I'm gonna play like 5 minutes of this to make the point. So check this out. Oh, let me turn this volume down. So listen to this.
Let's forget all of the talk about nuclear war for a minute. It's a distraction from the real world war that's deeply underway. It's happening right before our eyes. Just look at what NATO did this weekend. They blew up the bridge to Crimea. NATO attacked Russia. Of course, they said it was the Ukrainians, right? But Ukrainians are just a proxy for NATO at this point. They'll tell you anything short of nuclear war is a win for everyone. Look, we avoided nuclear war. So you won't see what's really happening underneath. More on that in a minute. But first, something happened this week that you might not have caught if you're busy watching mainstream media like CNN. Vladimir Putin turned 70 years old on Friday, and the mainstream media used it as an opportunity to talk about how deranged he is, how he's hiding out in a bunker, how his friends are disappearing, how China is set to abandon him. Yes, that last ridiculous part is the part I want to focus on because it sets the stage for how this World War III is currently unfolding before our eyes. So if you're in Europe, Australia, the United States, Canada, you're only receiving propaganda news, propaganda media. You're not hearing the true story. What you're hearing is that China is running away from Putin. Make no mistake about it. World War III is already unfolding right before our eyes. And China has been actively and perhaps quietly involved in this war from the very beginning. In fact, years ahead of time. Now, to those paying attention, it's been incredible to watch as this thing unfolds because it represents the biggest shift in world power since World War II. Now, a little historical context here, because in 2014, China was just starting to court Russia in a bigger way. The relationship was already strong, but nothing like it is right now. And in 2014, when Russia annexed Crimea, in a very telling moment, the Chinese didn't condemn it. No, in fact, at the United Nations, the Chinese delegation abstained from voting. We're going to sit this vote out, a clear sign that they supported Russia's annexation of Crimea while being a little cautious, maybe publicly. China had invested a lot of money in the deep water port in Ukraine, which was now then by all standards up in the air, right? Who is going to support this deep water port? Will it be Ukraine or will it be Russia? They don't know. China had a lot of money invested. So when they solidified their relationship with Russia, the Chinese were solidifying their economic future as well. Now, if you're China in 2014 and you watch NATO install a puppet government in Ukraine that threatens Russia, are you going to support the NATO side or are you going to support the Russian side? Of course, if you're China, you're going to side with Russia. A massive amount of their Belt and Road Initiative relied and currently relies on Russia. That was the start of this alliance in a much bigger way. Now, the sanctions the West placed on Russia after the annexation of Crimea allowed the partnership to flourish. Russia moved away from Western economic interests and shifted to China, India, South Africa, Brazil, and of course, all of the BRICS nations.
You know, every year there's a BRICS summit, and every year somebody predicts its demise. Having said that, these countries have still stuck together for longer than anybody had predicted.
Then 8 years later, war broke out. And during those 8 years, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping have solidified their partnership. Don't believe me? Just look at what happened this weekend. NATO launches an attack on Crimea, blowing up the Crimean Bridge. The United States says, hey, we don't care. Russia started this war, so we're not going to say anything about it. China condemns the attack and stands by Russia. These battle lines, my friends, are drawn. We're watching it play out. In 2014, China was dependent on Russia for trade of precious minerals, but the finances weren't at the forefront. And then 8 years later, finances and trade are now deeply intertwined. Now, the financial piece has grown tremendously, and their currencies are in many ways intertwined deeply now. The West is trying to pretend that China is running in the opposite direction because the West is desperate. And these are the actions of a desperate child. You know, when a child...
And when you go into understanding of what's going on, like he said in the beginning of this video, that Babylon the Great, man, the media is controlled by the elites, man. Okay, which media go back to medium, which is witchcraft, man, enchantments. Like he said, man, they control the media over here. You're not getting the truth from the news in Babylon the Great, man. You're not getting news. What you're getting is witchcraft, enchantments, man. Because this place is collapsing. But just like Rome, they gave you entertainment to keep your mind distracted from the collapse, man, of the monetary system, of the infrastructure, of the economy.
Child throws a temper tantrum and starts crying and throwing things. Yeah, like blowing up a pipeline or blowing up the biggest bridge to Crimea. Yeah, those are all clear signs of a desperate power. Now, of course, this all comes down to money and power, and the West is getting desperate watching it all slip away right in front of them. The dominance of the US dollar as the world's reserve currency is dying, and they know it. The United States blew up the Nord Stream pipeline in order to stop Europe from advancing. Now, Germany will need to buy American natural gas. Almost immediately, this was a stunning piece of news. The United States started price gouging the Germans. That's right, charging astronomical prices for natural gas. Oh, you don't have that pipeline that we blew up anymore to get cheaper natural gas from Russia? How about you buy our American natural gas and you pay through the nose for it? It's a brilliant business move. The United States is desperate because the economy is unsustainable. The US dollar isn't tied to any precious metal like it is in Russia and China. This week, the United States announced that it's now $31 trillion in debt. Now, just to wrap your heads around that for a moment, I remember
And see, that's why I say in Jeremiah and James 5:1, man, when the Lord talks about go to now ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Let me read it real quick. Because see, America's dollar is not backed by gold and silver. It's backed by um nothing, man. Okay? This fiat currency is a Ponzi scheme, man. So it's not backed by anything. Because these, like he just said, Russia and China, their currency is backed by gold and silver, man. Because to tell you, when you look it up, China and Russia own most of the gold on the planet, man. So let's get this. It's James 5:1. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. This is talking about those. This is talking about Babylon the Great, man. Okay, the elites control the world. They control the world from Babylon the Great, man. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasures together for the last days. So North America is being consumed, man, from within. And this is them, the Lord deteriorating how they control the world from here, man, from North America, Babylon the Great, man. So these other nations, and they've been doing this for a while. Let me read this in Obadiah. In Obadiah 1:7, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. It say, and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread. What does it mean for the other nations, them that's made confederacy with the Edomites over here? What does it mean for them to eat their bread? Everybody has the petrodollar, man. It say, they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Everybody got the petrodollar, man. So they that eat thy bread, right? Everybody, North America is a consumer, man. Everybody make money from Babylon the Great, man. Well, they don't need Babylon the Great no more, man. And these nations, just like this guy Gaddafi, man. He was setting up his own currency, which through gold, and these devils over here had to kill this man. They had to get rid of him because he was a problem to the petrodollar. See, it's all about this dollar, man.
Being in high school in the 1990s in my history.
Hold on. Let me back up.
Any precious metal like it is in Russia and China. This week, the United States announced that it's now $31 trillion in debt. Now, just to wrap your heads around that for a moment, I remember being in high school in the 1990s and my history teacher, Mr. Vogt, shout out to Mr. Vogt, he was telling us how the national debt at the time was around 3 to 4 trillion. If memory serves, it was like 3 to 4 trillion. At the time, my teacher made the case that there's virtually no way for the United States to be able to pay that back, right? Because we're paying so much on the interest alone. That was $3 to $4 trillion. Now it's at 31 trillion. And a huge percentage of that debt is to China. So who is in the driver's seat here? In the 8 years since NATO installed a puppet government in Ukraine, the Chinese and Russians have been moving towards a joint BRICS currency backed by gold, silver, and other commodities. In fact, the ruble, the Russian ruble, is the closest currency we have in the world to being backed by gold as part of the gold standard. Meanwhile, the United States has been moving further into a debt-based currency. The United States dollar is not backed by anything. It's not backed by gold. In fact, it is backed by debt. Debt, debt, debt. The West is lying to you, trying to tell you that Putin is hiding in a bunker and that Russia wants nothing to do with Mad Vlad. I've seen that headline a couple of times. Mad Vlad is in a bunker. Everyone's leaving him, ditching him. It's just propaganda. And the real world war is about money and global trade dominance. Would you rather have your family's finances tied to a country with $31 trillion in debt or an economic alliance backed by gold, silver, and other precious minerals?
You see? And that's what everybody want. Everybody wants something that's backed by gold and silver and other precious metals, man. Resources. Babylon the Great don't got no resources, man. This place is through, man. And here is what is that? Psalm 64, 7 and 8. It says, the Lord shall shoot at them with an arrow, suddenly shall they be wounded. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves, man. And you know why this is happening? Because the regular six-pack Joe Edomite is pissed off with the elites, man. See, this is that sedition between your regular common so-called white man against those that's in power, man. Because now everybody's losing because you either on top with the elites or you're on the bottom. And they don't care about their own people. As a matter of fact, when you read this in Ecclesiastes, also known as Sirach, let's read this. These devils don't care about their own people, man. This is Ecclesiastes 14 and 3. Riches are not common for a nigger, and what shall an envious man do with money? He that gathereth by defrauding his own soul gathereth for others. Like it said, like I read yesterday in Proverbs 28. Matter of fact, let me read that and come back. In Proverbs 28, in verse 8, it reads this. He that by usury and unjust gain, this is the same thing as saying in Sirach 14, Proverbs 28 and 8. He that by usury and unjust gain increaseth his substance, he shall gather it for him that would pity the poor. Who is him that would pity the poor? Yahweh Shema Shah. He said he coming for the meek and lowly. Now here's another one in Job. Is that Job 27 and 16? It reads, though he heap up silver as the dust and prepare raiment as the clay, he may prepare it, but the just shall put it on, and the innocent shall divide the silver. So these are the same two precepts that go back to Ecclesiastes 14, man. Let's read again. Sirach 14 and 4. He that gathereth by defrauding his own soul gathereth for others. Because the Lord got them doing this. It said in Proverbs 28 and 8, right? By unjust gains and usury. Let's read again. This is beautiful, man. Proverbs 28 and 8, it reads, he that by usury and unjust gain increaseth his substance, he shall gather it for him that will pity the poor. So in Ecclesiastes 14 and 4, it reads, he that gather by defrauding, right, usury and unjust gain, his own soul gathers for others that shall spend his goods riotously. It say, he that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? When you read Jeremiah 13 and 23, right? It said, you know, a leper can't change his spots, right? So are they accustomed to doing evil, man? Let me read it. This devil don't care about his own people, man. And that's why you have these Job 9 and 24 YouTubers, man. Okay? That's why you got these Job 9 and 24 YouTubers, because they don't, they're complaining against their fathers, man. Jeremiah 13 and 23. Can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leper his spots? Then may ye also do good that are accustomed to do evil. And they can't change. I got to get this now. In Job, was that Job 14 and 4 reads, who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean? Not one, right? Sirach 34 and 4. Job 14 and 4 said, who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean? Not one. This is Sirach 34 and 4. Of an unclean thing, what can be cleansed? And from that which is false, what truth can come? Nothing. The Lord made them to be the wicked of the earth, man. He made the so-called white man to be wicked perfectly, man. So, Sirach 14 and 5, he that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. There is none worse than he that envieth himself, and this is the recompense of his wickedness. He don't care for his own people, because his own people drinking contaminated waters and breathing in chemtrails. and eating GMO foods and bathing in contaminated water that's coming out of pipes that's corroded. And if he doeth good, he doeth it unwillingly at the last, and at the last he will declare his wickedness. It's saying at the last he will declare his wickedness. I gotta get a precept for that. In Proverbs 26 and 24 it reads, he that hateth dissembleth with his lips, and layeth up deceit within him. When he speaketh fair, believe him not. Right, what it says in Psalm 55 and 20 and 21. His words are smoother than the oil. His words are smoother than butter. Right, his words are smoother than butter. You see, it said, when he speaketh fair, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart, whose hatred is covered by deceit. His wickedness shall be showed before the whole congregation. So, let me get this. Psalms 55 and 20 to say, he hath put forth his hands against such that be at peace with him. He has broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were drawn swords, which what they did against Gad, Reuben, and Issachar, man. So going back to Sirach 14, it reads, if he doeth good, he doeth it unwillingly, and at the last he will declare his wickedness. Like I said in Proverbs 26 and 26, his wickedness shall be showed before the whole congregation, man. That's what the Lord said. You shall know them, man. Okay? You shall know them, man. Their works, their track record, man. That's what the Lord said in 2 Thessalonians 2, right? That he shall be revealed in his time. It's at verse 8, the envious man have a wicked eye. He turneth away his face and despiseth men. A covetous man's eye is not satisfied with his portion, and the iniquity of the wicked drive up his soul. A wicked eye envieth his bread, and he is a niggard at his table. What does it mean to be a niggard at your own table? They're talking about him and his people. He don't care for his own people. So that's why you got YouTubers like Redacted that's complaining against who? Their people. Hold on. Ecclesiastes, what is that? 41. Just read this. Sirach 41 in verse 7. The children will complain of an ungodly father, because they shall be reproached for his sake, man. Okay.
That's why we're partnering with Prismo Metals for this video. Now, we're headed for a massive recession and a massive stock market correction in the Western countries. This is Brandon Smith writing at Zero Hedge. I want to quote what he just wrote this morning. He says, quote, I have said it many times in the past, but I'll say it here again. Stock markets are a trailing indicator of economic health, not a leading indicator. Rising stock prices are not a signal of future economic stability. And when stocks fall, it's usually after years of declines in other sectors of the financial system. Collapsing stocks are not the cause of an economic crisis. They are just a delayed symptom of a crisis that was always there. And of course, you're seeing that in so many sectors of the economy with mass layoffs, right? And so certain sectors in the stock market now are collapsing for a reason. The reason we're seeing this collapse is because the patient is dying. That means if your 401k is tied to these types of companies, I mean, look, Peloton trying to save itself right now. Facebook, Meta, whatever you want to call it, laying off thousands of people. Banks laying off tons and tons of people. Again, if your 401k is tied to these companies in these economies, you better get ready. Now, you've heard me talk about how I actively invest in precious metals and precious metals companies like Prismo Metals. Now, there's no doubt that the world is heading towards a precious metals as a store of value and a technological utility standard. That's what it's going to be, right? The demand for silver components is off the charts right now. So we're seeing strengthening of silver and gold prices in the last few days. In fact, I just got an email today from a viewer who's a prepper and said, look, you make sure you buy food, make sure you buy gold, make sure you buy silver. and protect your families as these currencies collapse. Remember, I think investing in these precious metals is a hedge against inflation and a way to protect your family. I agree with this.
See, this that carnal mind, man. Let's get this. In Exodus 15:3, the Lord say, this Exodus 15:3. Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. This is about war, man. And he mentioned, I got to play it again from the beginning. I'm going to play a couple minutes of this, just what he said in the beginning.
Let's forget all of the talk about nuclear war for a minute. It's a distraction from the real world war that's deeply underway. It's happening right before our eyes. Just look at what NATO did this weekend. They blew up the bridge to Crimea. NATO attacked Russia. Of course, they said it was the Ukrainians, right? But Ukrainians are just a proxy for NATO at this point. They'll tell you anything short of nuclear war is a win for everyone. Look, we avoided nuclear war. So you won't see what's really happening underneath. More on that in a minute. But first, something happened this week that you might not have caught if you're busy watching mainstream media like CNN. Vladimir Putin turned 70 years old on Friday, and the mainstream media used it as an opportunity to talk about how deranged he is, how he's hiding out at a bunker, how his friends are disappearing, how China is set to abandon him. Yes, that last ridiculous part is the part I want to focus on because it sets the stage for how this World War III is currently unfolding before our eyes. So if you're in Europe, Australia, the United States, Canada, you're only receiving propaganda news, propaganda media. You're not hearing the true story. What you're hearing is that China is running away from Putin. Make no mistake about it. World War III is already unfolding right before our eyes.
That's the point I want to make again. Now, again, in Exodus 15:3. Now, and these devils know. It's just these simple jakes that don't understand what's going on, man. Exodus 15:3 again. Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. This is Isaiah 42. And the Lord is stirring these devils up, man. They don't know what's going on. Well, scriptures say they have none understanding, man. This is Isaiah 42:13. Yahweh shall go forth as a mighty man. He shall stir up jealousy like a man of war. He shall cry, yell, roar. He shall prevail against his enemies. I have long time holding my peace. I have been still and refrained myself. Now will I cry like a travailing woman. I will destroy and devour at once. And this has been told to you. Start with the apostles of great millstone. You have been warned over and over and over. Habakkuk 1:5. Behold ye among the heathen, talking to you Israelites, and regard and wonder marvelously. For I will work a work in your days which you would not believe, though it be told to you. Let me get this other clip. Because I played this other day in the lesson that Saudi Arabia is separated from Babylon the Great, man. So let me get this. I played this the other day. So listen to this.
Eventually, we could go to $1 trillion. Let me shift gears a little bit because you've got some strong opinions on the administration, which is in panic mode, right? Saudi Arabia just sort of dissed President Biden. They cut production, and now they want to, to stop oil exports, among other things. You like that idea?
Well, that would be a disaster for the United States because remember, we export energy to help pay for all the goods that we import. We already have record trade deficits, and if we couldn't export our energy to pay for our imports, our trade deficits would go even higher, and that would put downward pressure on the dollar, upward pressure on interest rates, and the net effect would be higher consumer prices. Yes, gas might be a little cheaper, but everything else would be more expensive. And
you see, so when I played this other day, and I read Isaiah 13, did it say the Arabians shall neither pinch tit there, man? The Lord is bringing this place down, man. And Saudi Arabia has been America's #1 ally, man. Saudi Arabia is America's cash cow, man. And they doing billion-dollar deals with China and with Russia. So what's really going on, man? So this is so what's really going on, man? In Habakkuk chapter 2, we start at verse 6. It reads, Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? And to him that laden himself with thick clay. When you look up this word, it means debt, man. That laden himself with thick clay. It's talking about thick debt, man. And that is saying 31 trillion. And America is, listen, it's over 200 trillion, man. Shall not they rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and a weight that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? Because it tell you in Jeremiah, not Jeremiah, in Job 20 and 22. Let me read it. But everybody, it said now, it say everybody, Babylon is a taunting proverb, man. Everybody is speaking against this place. This is Job 20 and 22. In the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. Why? What did he do? Let's go back to Habakkuk 2. Habakkuk 2 and 7. It say, shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and a weight that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee. You see, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Woe to him that covets an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high. Because this is about them. This is talking about the elites. This ain't them as a nation, because it said he's a nigger at his own table. He don't even care about his own people, man. They only care about them. What's at their table? Okay? That he may be delivered from the power of evil. That has consulted shame to thy house. So all the Edomites going to be destroyed. It's them, the elites, that's causing everything, the whole planet, to be out balanced, man. Well, the Lord can consume the whole house of Edom, man. That has consulted shame to thy house by cutting out many people, and has sinned against thy soul. So that's why you got these Edomites come out to camp. It's been a minute, but we had a lot of Edomites come to camp and say, it wasn't me, it was my forefathers. No, Isaiah 14 and 21 say, prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, man. Because the Lord said, what? Thou hast consulted shame to thy house. That's all these Edomites. Every last one of them, from the elites to the six-pack Joe Edomite, by cutting out many people, and has sinned against thy soul. This is verse 15. Woe to him that giveth his neighbor drink, that putteth thy bottle to him, and maketh him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shame for spewing shall be on thy glory, man. Now, like he said, World War III is here. Hold on, we got to play it again. This is where we at, man. Prophecy, man. And the Lord is stirring up jealousy like a man of war. Why? Because it said in Exodus 15 and 3, the Lord is a man of war, man. Let's run this back.
Let's forget all of the talk about nuclear war for a minute. It's a distraction from the real world war that's deeply underway. It's happening right before our eyes. Just look at what NATO did this weekend. They blew up the bridge to Crimea. NATO attacked Russia.
Now, NATO did that now. What you think is going to happen?
Of course, they said it was the Ukrainians, right? But Ukrainians are just a proxy for NATO at this point. They'll tell you anything short of nuclear war is a win for everyone. Look, we avoided nuclear war. So you won't see what's really happening underneath. More on that in a minute. But first, something happened this week that you might not have caught if you're busy watching mainstream media like CNN. Vladimir Putin turned 70 years old on Friday, and the mainstream media used...
Hey, shalom to all the Akim I walk on the comment board. Shalom. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, Bashem Awashab, Hashem Rakak, Kodash Barakatham.
used it as an opportunity to talk about how deranged he is, how he's hiding out in a bunker, how his friends are disappearing, how China is set to abandon him. Yes, that last ridiculous part is the part I want to focus on because it sets the stage for how this World War III is currently unfolding before our eyes. So if you're in Europe, Australia, the United States, Canada, you're only receiving propaganda news, propaganda media. You're not hearing the true story. What you're hearing is that China is running away from Putin. Make no mistake about it. World War III is already unfolding right before our eyes. And China has been actively and perhaps quietly involved in this war from the very beginning. In fact, years ahead of time. Now, to those paying attention, it's been incredible to watch as this thing unfolds because it represents the biggest shift in world power since World War II.
You see, the biggest shift in world power since World War II, man. Yeah, and China ain't finna get on top neither, nor Russia. It's gonna be the elect of Israel, man. Yahweh Shah is coming back to take over, man. Revelation 19, it said, what? On his head were many crowns, man. And if you watch that movie 300, when this guy came up to Xerxes and he held up the crowns of all the nations, of all the kings that Xerxes had conquered, the messenger that Xerxes sent. Hey, that's Yahweh Shah, man. Hey, Yahweh Shah come back to take over, man. It is a transition of power, man, as the scriptures say. Says Revelation 9-12, one woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. Revelation 11:14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And we know this. We know this, man. So I just want to make some points on that. I saw this article. I saw this video. So I just want to make some points, man. Like, hey, the world know, man. It's simple as Jake that don't know what's going on out here, man. World War III is brewing up, man. The MOTB is here. We waiting on it to be made mandatory, man. Famines and pestilence. Listen, when you read about, let me read this. In Revelation 7, Revelation 7:1, it reads, and after these things I saw four angels standing on the four corners of the earth, holding the four winds of earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. So you got the angels that's holding back these winds. Well, guess what? It's small little winds seeping through. That's why you got famine playing out. That's why you got pestilence playing out. That's why you got a lot of people already have the MOTB. They already got it. Things is happening. It hasn't escalated on the magnitude where it can't be stopped. But things are happening, man. As the Lord showing us, get it together. Get yourself together, man. Get your mind right, because things is happening. Of course, the angels are holding back these four winds, because when the angels let loose, that means everything gonna happen at one time, and it's gonna be disaster, man. It's gonna be horrific. But things are happening, showing us, hey, this is the Lord showing us, hey, you have been warned, man. Get yourself together, because things are happening, man. World War III is here. We're waiting on the MOTB to be made mandatory, man. Once the MOTB be made mandatory, the winds that the angel holding back is going to break loose, man. Famine is here. Pestilence is here. Sedition is already happening. You saw the uproars going on around the world? Peoples are in uproar, man. Why? Because of this devil and his petrodollar, man. Because of who's in rulership, man. As the scriptures say, let me get this. In Isaiah 24, which goes back to the precept this verse, in Isaiah 24, it's in Ecclesiastes, man. Let me read this. It's Isaiah 24:1. Because we got to follow ways of this devil, man. Right? The earth was given to the hand of the wicked. Proverbs 24:1. Behold, Yahweh maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. And it shall be as with the people, so with the priest, as with the server, so with his master, as with the maid, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the taker of usury. You see, so with the giver of usury to him. Say the same thing in Sirach 10 and 1. It reads, a wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. Like it just said in Isaiah 24 and 2. An unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. You see? So, as with the master, right? So with the servant, as with the buyer, so with the seller. You see? It's these devils, man. And he's a nigger at his own table, man. So yeah, I saw this. I want to make some points. Hey, this place, hey, the Lord is destroying this place inside out, man. It's deteriorating. Right? Oh, I gotta read this. In Isaiah 10, in Isaiah 14, the Lord say, it's Isaiah 14 and 11, it reads, thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vows, the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. Right? What is that? That's corroded, man. Corrosion, consumed, deteriorated. Okay? Collapse, infrastructure, monetary, the economy. It's all collapsing, man. And that's why I say in Isaiah that every man shall flee and run to his own people, man. That's what that's what the Lord say. Hey, spiritually, we gotta flee from this place mentally and spiritually, man. Everybody else is doing it. These heathen nations is leaving here. Saudi Arabia doing deals with China and Russia, man. What's really going on? That's America's cash cow. This place is through, man. Hey, so Lord was edifying. Got to give all praise and glory to Yahweh. Bahashem Yahweh Shah. Bahashem Rikah Quadash. The bonus to the apostles and elder bishops and elders, a great millstone who teach well, who are the apostles and elders of all Israel, ready concepted or not, in the sincere salutation. Taught the Akim pushing this truth and believing this truth throughout the four winds of the earth, the entire world. We hear the hopeful elect. And shalom to the Agwa who are listening and learning. If you sisters who are listening and learning, Lord was edifying. Until next time, I say shalom. Wa abba, the wa for tuning in. May Yahweh Shema shall continue blessing your houses. Stay prayed up. Shalom. Hey, throughout for posting precepts. The water.